Hello, everyone. How are you? Good afternoon. I'm so happy that you're here today. I see families, actually, like parents who I've known for a long time that I've been working with. I also see new people, new parents that I hope I will eventually get to know them personally or through virtually, but at least one-on-one. And I see people from Miami, people from California, and even Canada and Latin America. So thank you all for being here today. First of all, I want to apologize for having to reschedule the day, but I had a terrible migraine. I suffer from migraine, so I couldn't be at my best. So thank you for joining today. Before we get started, I want to ask you, please, if all the questions that you may have, you can, right now, you can write them down under the Q&A tab, if you find it. If it's your first webinar, there's a Q&A tab that you can insert your questions. So my idea will be, instead of answering your questions at the end of the webinar, will be to read, and we'll spend like the first 5 minutes or 2 minutes actually before we get started for you to include your questions. I will read them like before getting started, and then I will be answering on the way through the webinar. So if that's okay for you, please start writing down your questions. And then I will try to answer them all, but if it's not possible, then I will answer them afterwards the webinar, and I will send an email with all the Q's and A's. So you can get started with the questions if you're ready. And okay, I'll just give you 10 more seconds. As it's 1:02, I want to give you like a few more seconds for everyone to join in. And to be able to write down, please, your questions as for now, as I will be answering those throughout the webinar, instead of waiting at the end of the webinar and asking you to write the questions. Okay. So thank you for posting some questions. I will get them. I will try to answer them as we go. I'm going to share with you now. Okay. Are we all ready yet? Nice. Okay, so I know that this is definitely something new for us. We've never lived within this situation before. Of course, there's been like pandemic stages, but this is new for us, for everyone. So I wanted to share with you today at least a few resources, or at least 3 powerful tools that I think might benefit or will benefit you and your children. For those who haven't met me, I know that there are a lot of new faces, and I'm glad to get to know new people today. I'm Valeria Fontanals. I am based in Miami. I'm a licensed school psychologist in Miami, and I have my private practice, My Optimal Child, in which I've been helping for the last 20 years of my career in Miami, in other places in the United States, in Beijing, in China, and in Argentina, where I am from. I've been helping children with learning challenges and triceptionality, ADHD, and gifted, or autism and gifted, or dyslexia and gifted, find a way out to become the best version of themselves in terms of learning and in their lives. And I've been helping, of course, like families go through from the initial assessment, the psychoeducational assessment, to the kind of make a plan and guide them through that path towards helping children learn at their best and be successful in their own terms at school and in life. So today nobody knows about what is going to happen and how this new area of schooling from home it's going to look like. I mean, we had some idea from the previous few months before, and for most of them and for most people, even myself, it wasn't the most successful experience. But I think we learned, at least the teachers, I think they learned through those months. I think also parents and children learned a little bit about that. But I want to share with you today is from my expertise as a learning expert that I've been researching and implemented different strategies. We don't know what is going to happen and how this is going to look like for anybody, including me and my child. But at least we know a lot about learning. And I want to share with you, that's why, 3 powerful tools that I believe will benefit your children and you as you're going to be involved in your child's learning process. So we know, as for learning, that there are 3 key factors that will affect learning in children, especially at home. First, it's going to be the home setup. We will talk about that. Also, it will depend on your child's specific learning needs. It's not just one fits all. Definitely, we as parents, we need to be very flexible in understanding our individual child's learning needs and how we can provide our best in that. And the third aspect, in order to that it will affect learning, it's the child, parent, and school relationship. If you decided doing homeschooling, of course, you would have to take away the school relationship. But I think in most cases who are here in the webinar are families who are going to be providing remote learning for their children. So getting in touch with the school and providing your needs as much as you can, this is also very important. But I won't be talking about that. I just wanted to give you like an idea in terms of what are the keys that affects learning. And I want to give you and share with you 3 tools that might help you at home. The first one, it's about the power of routine. Remember when your kids were little and we would go to the pediatrician or we would read parenting books, and the first or top #1 tool that would give us in order for the kids to be able to, the babies, to be able to sleep better is routine. It's like, oh, routine is everything. If you get them into a routine, they will be able to eat better, they will be able to sleep better. And actually, that's true. But the same truth is for kids. And especially when they're living uncertain times, if we give them a structure at home, if we give them a daily routine, that is going to have a huge impact on how they will attempt learning. Because basically when we have a routine, our anxiety levels go down because we think we are under control. So that allows kids also to become more prepared and to become more open for learning. So let me share with you just one example of how we can set up a routine, I would say, with your child. So I make a huge impact on saying the word with and not for your child, because in everything that we're going to set up for them for remote learning, we need to do it with them. And that means preparing a plan with them. Even if they're 5 years old, they're able to do so. They're able to come up with a plan together and to follow through that. So for example, for the little ones, we can set up a routine, but it's going to be more visual, right? The idea would be for them, we can even come up with a train or something that they enjoy, and they will see like the train kind of in each one, like you see the progress. So throughout that progress, if you set up the routine for them, then when it's time for school, they will be ready because they've been knowing what they are expecting to do. The one thing recommendation that I would provide is, instead of waiting for, that's typically what we do. I mean, if we set up the routine, if we do it, we typically do it like 5 minutes before, the day in the morning. What I would recommend you is to try to do that routine at night with them. So then when they wake up, they will know what's going to happen. And even the wake up situation might be better. If you follow a routine every day and you set up a schedule with them, the likeliness that they're going to be willing to follow that and be willing to do online or remote learning will be much higher. I've been working on daily schedulings and routines, not only for remote learning, but for most kids for every task. And I guarantee you, if you keep it in a regular way, on a regular basis, that will have a big impact. For the older one, you can create a daily schedule with everything that that they're going to do throughout the day, and again with them. And of course, they're going to have a specific schedule for the school. So that is also important for you to set up that and print it, have it visual. All visual aids for all ages are very important. So that's my top number one recommendation: set up a routine for them. That is going to save you a lot of time for you too, because if you set up their routine, then you can set up your own routine, and you will have an idea of what it will be the expectations on your time management as well. Let me read something. Doesn't want her teacher in the room. Sorry, I'm just reading. Okay, so what I see for now, there are some people asking about classmates that they want to do it online. I'm gonna go with that like later on here. So number one, routine is crucial. Also, if you break down the work that they have in smaller chunks and you come up with a homework or with a daily task, that it's going to help them a lot. And every time that they complete something, they check it out, and then they will see that things, are completed, and they have a fewer amount of things to do. So this is kind of the overall. The idea is how to set them up to be able to sit down and do the work, right? Now we're gonna go to the next step of understanding that learning is a process. I always say that when we are teaching, or even like teachers or you as parents, when the kids are little and you're teaching the ABCs, I guess you would not expect them just for listening to the ABC song or for you showing, the ABC letters once. They're gonna learn, right? Like one day after the other. And most people don't have that expectation. If you do, I mean, not wrong. But most people don't have the expectation of just learning the letters in one day, the full alphabet. So why would we have the expectation for children to be able to learn life skills, as what like remote learning is, right away from day one, and going from 1 to Z? It is very important for everyone, but especially for us parents, that it is new for us, that we are next to our children now throughout their learning process, that learning takes time, and that learning is a process. And in order for us to get from A to C, we have to go through B, and what that it means. I want to share with you a powerful tool that I've been using since the days that I've been studying 20 years ago, and it is still something that we as educators and psychologists, we are still working with, that it's the zone of proximal development. If you kind of picture yourself here, these are the things, if you visualize this, these are the things that you can do on your own, right? That means if you can do something on your own, it means that you don't have to go through any learning process. These are the things that you can do with a bit of help. That means that help could be through technology. Maybe you need editing, and then you have the editor in your computer, or it may be a teacher, or it may be a parent, or it might be a peer, a friend, that might guide you through something. And here are the things that you cannot yet do, no matter how much support you get. So, for example, if your child is 6 months old, you wouldn't expect your child to be able to walk, right? No matter how much support you can get, no matter, you know, like here, no matter how much support you can give her, no matter how much you're gonna hold his hands in order for him to walk, he's not able to do it, you know, as for now, because biologically he's not ready. He's here. But most likely between 9 months to 14 months, he's gonna start getting here, right? So when you think about learning, and when we think about remote learning, let's say for now, we shouldn't be expecting our children to be going from day one, sitting down on, you know, the chair through the full schedule. That it's going to be pretty tough, I think, for everyone, to be doing it perfectly done in one session. This is going to take time. So it's also about how patient we are and how we can balance and support providing this bit of help that our kids are going to need. And with that help, there are going to be things, I believe, that parents, we can provide, but then there are going to be things such as, let's say, if your child has a reading difficulty, you can support as a dad, as a mom, you can provide all the support here in this, zone of proximal development, all the setup. And that means the home setup with no pressure, the home setup with good expectations for your child, the home setup of having a place in which your child, and as the routine and spending a specific amount of time for reading. But you're not an expert in reading, so you shouldn't also, that's my opinion, that you shouldn't also force yourself to actually teach your child how to read. That is something that eventually I believe you have to outsource, but still you can provide your child with all the support around it for him to be able to read. So we talked about the secret number one, or the powerful tool number one, of setting up routines. If your child knows when and what it's going to happen, it's most likely that he would be willing to do so. We talked about the number two in terms of understanding that learning is a process, and that we have to be patient, and then we will need, your child will need the support in order to get from one place to the other. He will need, or she will need, time and support. We cannot expect for them to do everything at once. And the number three clue that I think that most of the questions that I am reading in your Q's and A's is about specific needs according to your child's learning profiles. So as parents, I think we also, nowadays, that we have the control, or we have at least the option of choosing how our child's education is going to look like. Before, we would send kids to the schools and we would expect everything to happen, there. Nowadays, we're forced to rethink about what we want for our children and what type of education we want to provide them and how to support them, right? I think that now parents are empowering themselves much more than before. And in order to do so, the tool number three is about really understanding our children's learning profile. And that is not easy. Sometimes we have to go to an expert. I can definitely help in terms of identifying, the learning's profile and the challenges that your child may be going through. But also as parents, I think when we are, coming up with remote learning, we need to identify as parents, how is our child doing compared to others? And I think that's what we're doing as for now. Now that we get to see in class and we get to see other students at the same time as our kids actually interacting, and we get to see what the teacher's expectations are in terms of what is going on in that class, we get to understand a little bit more what are our children's challenges, right, in terms of learning. And that is crucial, because I think the number one, if we understand what are the challenges and what are the strengths of our children, then we can make better choices in terms of the type of support that we need to provide. So one thing that I would recommend you to do while you are in remote learning with your child is try to observe if your child is trying to run off, like, and do things faster, you know, like the cheetah. Oh, sorry, let's go back. Oops. You know, when the teacher is kind of providing an assignment, and maybe your child is the typical who would just try to rush through things, and maybe because he's rushing through things, the work is not accurate. Or maybe your child will have more kind of a Seniel personality or like type, in which maybe the teacher already like completed, you know, an assignment, and everyone, as you see, you know, in the Zoom or any platform that the school is using, that all the kids have already finished, and maybe your child is, you know, trying to catch up, and, you know, he's the one who typically cannot finish all the tasks. If either way is happening, definitely we need to set up something different for our children. First, of course, we need to see if the setup or that the teacher is offering is a good fit to what, you know, your child can or cannot do. And that's why, like, getting in touch and communication with the school is important. And if not, eventually it's going to be about like what accommodations the school can provide and so forth. But from the parents' perspective, it would be about, okay, like, if my child is always rushing through in all subjects, it's one thing. But if your child is rushing through in one subject, then maybe you can think about, okay, the rest of the subjects, maybe he or she will be able to do it independently, but then I will be supporting maybe just the math that he needs the most. The same thing is he goes slower. So it's also about deciding, you know, in terms of your schedule and your timing, how much support or not you're going to provide according to the subjects or according to the situations that your child has to encounter. In terms of how to improve attention, that I'm reading in terms of questions through online learning, and especially for a special needs student, that is the biggest challenge that I think kids with special needs will have. And when I say special needs, or maybe they put it in those words, it's kids who have learning challenges for different reasons. It could be because they have attention issues, it could be because they have reading issues, it could be because they have sensory issues, or they find the struggle with social interaction. Either way, to keep the same in the rhythm of the pace of the classroom, it's gonna be hard, even because they're gonna rush through things, or they're gonna be going, you know, slowly, and they cannot keep up. So for now, the key, especially for those kids, it's gonna be about how to provide the accommodations from the school, and from the parents' perspective, how much support, if you're gonna be next to your child in some, you know, subjects, that is okay. But then you can also try to see if eventually you can start reducing the amount of support little by little, but in smaller chunks. So maybe if you set up the day and they already know what, you know, the class is going to look like, then the first few minutes you can be off, and then you can come back when he or she needs to do an assignment. That may be something that, you know, he needs the most of help. But with attention, if the classes are going to be one-to-one nonstop, the way that I would recommend is to figure it out, do the first day or 2 days with your child and write it down. When are the times that your child is off? Because kids will be off, or they will not be paying attention for different reasons. Sometimes for some kids, it's because they cannot focus for that long. If that's the case, no matter, you know, the subject, or no matter what you're asking your child to do, if that's the case, I would recommend first doing you know, a lot of different like brain breaks. The thing is that if the school or the scheduling of the school is not providing those, That's why when I mean like by accommodations, you would have to see when you're going to put in place those brain breaks and ask and tell the school that this is going to happen and he might miss a few minutes. But then like when you're going to spend those few minutes, it will depend on your child. But definitely with kids who have attention or hyperactivity and they cannot like stop moving, sometimes using a bouncy ball on your child's feet are going to be good, because they will be rolling the ball, and that can help them even like increase their attention when they have to be sitting down for so long. But at the same time, I would recommend you to do 3 minutes of brain breaks, and then your child can do jumping jacks. It will depend on your child's choice. Jumping jacks or some stretching, or like listening to one song and dancing and shaking it up before then going to the next class. Doing like those brain breaks, it's going to be crucial for me, for every child, but especially for the ones who have attention or learning challenges. They need their brain to relax, because if not, they're going to be so saturated that then of course they will not be willing to do any of the work. If you see that your child is paying attention to some things but not to others, my opinion is that it's most likely that your child might have difficulties in that particular area. So in doing so, it's either you have to check if it's too hard for your child, or sometimes kids have a low level of frustration, so you won't, your child will not be willing to try it out and see and realize that he's making mistakes. The top number one, I would say, skill or intervention that I would recommend is showing and modeling that you're also making mistakes all the time. In order to do so, then eventually if he gets into the rhythm of making mistakes, which is fine, and that that doesn't have any negative consequence in your home, that is going to be looking forward to writing and trying it out again and being more persistent to making an effort to make progress. So again, let me see one more thing that I want to share with you, some of the questions. Sorry that there are so many that I would like to provide all of them, but as I said before, then eventually I can keep on helping with that later on. About not wanting to be online, right? That she hides herself. That happens. That happens to us, to some kids, and I've seen it either through, nowadays I'm providing everything virtual. So the psychoeducational assessment or the educational therapy that my team is running. And for some kids, being online for the first time can be tough. They might be a little bit shy. But she's scared, and I would tell her that it's okay. I wouldn't force her to be in the camera right away. If she's being, I would suggest first to try out like a Zoom with some friends or with some family members. So, she might get used to the idea that someone else is going to be on the other side of the camera, and that it is fine. And I would just tell her that maybe the first few days you're going to be next to her side by side, and it's new to be, and it's okay to feel scared about this because it's something new. And every time that we do something new, we might, feel scared. I would try to ask her what makes her feel scared. If it's because it's going to be new kids or a new teacher, I would say that it's fine. And then I will ask her like how it went for her the first day of school when it was in person. It's most likely that she felt or she was scared or she went through the same thing on the first school last year when she was in person. So I will try to go through that memory, go through how she was successfully, how she was able to go through that, and then eventually I guess that she felt comfortable about being in school, and that is most likely what is going to happen to her. So again, I just want to wrap up the 3 key points for you to, to be able to think about for your children. My first recommendation in this long way that we're not sure how long it's going to be, the remote learning, for those who are not choosing that, but they are forced to because schools are closed, is for your children to be able to have a positive learning experience. I found through all these years that most likely when kids come to me, it's because they've been having a long way of negative learning experiences. And that happened most likely in school because the context was not providing what the child was needed at that time. If you are now in power of that situation at home, I would encourage you to provide the best positive learning experience. And that doesn't mean necessarily getting your child to be reading at a grade level or getting your child be at grade level. Those things are going to happen only if your child feels confident about himself or herself and feels open enough for learning. And that's why if you set up a home that it's ready for that, if you understand your child's challenges and you accept those challenges and you have the expectations that are to the level to what your child can do, most likely we as parents, we have these expectations and maybe our kids can do this. And this gap between the expectations that we have to what your child can do provide us as parents a lot of frustration, and then we pass that frustration to the kids. I'm not saying that we shouldn't push our kids to be at their best, but what I'm suggesting is being aware of our expectations as parents to what our children should be doing. And also remembering that learning is a process and we shouldn't expect our kids to be perfectly paying attention or doing remote learning just the first week. If your kids will be in school, and the things that you don't know about all these things that happen in schools, but there is the first month of school, it's mostly about, even like with older kids, but it's mostly about adapting to the school, right? So that is what should happen also, and it's going to have to happen like maybe like longer because they would have to adapt to a new situation at home too. So my goal eventually is for kids, as you see in this picture, to be able to adapt to this remote learning and to be able to be as independent as possible. For those who would like to continue this conversation, we are already 1:30. For those who would like to continue this conversation, I will be very happy to be with you along the way. And I am offering a 4-week workshop for parents starting this Thursday, in which the main goal will be to go hand with hand. We're going to be a small group of parents in which you will be able to ask me all the questions that you want, and will be able to reply to all your questions. And it will be remotely for an hour. I will be providing with a schooling from home kit, and I will emailing to you like all the routines that I think your child should be doing, and they will be individualized according to your child's name and also to the day that you will typically do, and schedules and to-do list, like everything will be packed up for you to print out and be able to use for us, setting up your child's setup space. Throughout those 4 weeks, we'll be also talking and discussing and providing tips in terms of how to engage your child in remote learning according to your child's learning challenges or preferences, and how to organize and plan your day for your child and with your child in terms of how to set up kind of a whole child approach and not just academics for your child's day, and also interventions in terms of how to assist your child in homework. So if you would like to come along with me in those 4 weeks, I am offering this workshop for those who are now in this webinar at a much lower price. I would suggest for you to write an email to info@myoptimalchild.com, and also the first 10 families who are joining me, I will be mailing, I will print out, I will laminate everything individualized for you, and I will be shipping to any place you are in order for you to get all the schooling from home kits ready to start right away next week. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope it was any help with some tips and recommendations that I provided just before school gets started in this new area. And I hope to be willing, and I hope to see you along the way. I will also, I typically add a lot of resources and recommendations at My Optimal Child in Facebook and Instagram, so you can follow us as well. And thank you so much for being here today. Bye.